There have been many sets in which the performances that I've either been a part of creating or have observed by being behind the camera and not being in a scene, that I've seen created, that were created by the energy of the crew. The way in which they invest in the storytelling is the way the scene came out. And that's one of the things that directors and cinematographers particularly, because they're, and the first assistant director, the triumvirate of people making a film, you know, who are the central kind of nerve center, how they behave, what experience they're investing in, changes everything about a film, everything.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
John Carroll Lynch is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Do you have a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new character? Like, is there a typical first step that you take to kind of wrap your arms around this person?
It's obviously changed over time my process has changed over time as I've changed as an actor and an artist. I have taken to parsing sentences now, which has been over the course of the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. I break it down into subjects, objects, and verbs. Oh. I don't go into adverbs, or I don't spend a lot of time trying to impress my elementary school teacher who taught me how to parse sentences, but I do that. Huh. And the reason why I do that is because, first of all, it's a great way to learn the lines. You have to go over them over and over again. The way I do it, I first highlight the verbs, then I highlight the subjects, then I highlight the objects. And what happens is I start to learn a little bit about the way the writer has constructed the particular idiom of the character I'm playing. For example, there's characters that after you've been doing this, one realizes they don't really use the word I very much, or they use it all the time. As an example, just a gross example of what I've learned doing it is that I start to think about the person in a different way. Are they someone who's outward driven or inward driven? Those things come to mind. And also, do they ask questions? Do they respond to questions? Those are things that you start to figure out. Then I break it down into the beat structure that I learned as a first year acting student, which is where do the movements of the thoughts and agendas go? Yeah. And that gives you a sense of who's driving the scene, whether it's you or another person or another set of people. Yeah. And you get a sense of if the character's on their front or back foot, how aggressive they are, what their sense of their relationship with the other person or persons are. And then after all of that, I highlight my lines, and this is all on an iPad now because I don't print out my lines. But that's strictly so I can block them out when I'm working on them. So I will. There's this app I use called Rehearsal 2, and it has what's called the Dule Hill function, because Dule Hill asked for it. Oh, because this is how Dule Hill would learn his lines on The West Wing. He would work on the lines, and then he would redact his own lines. Oh, so he'd only see the other person's lines. Yeah. And so I do that for a period of time. And also, I oftentimes, because we're short on time, usually when I'm working on lines, because I usually work in television or film circumstances, particularly television. So you have to move quickly. So I record the lines with gaps for I record the cues with gaps for my lines. It's never a perfect science, but it often gives you a sense of how fast or slow a person is thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I usually begin. I talk to the director if I have an opportunity to talk to them beforehand, get a sense of what their point of view is. And if I'm on Zoom or if I'm in person, I spend as much time watching or feeling the person talk about the character as I do listening. Because how they speak about it, what their bodies do, while speaking about the character or the agenda of the scene, teaches me more about how they want the character played than probably their words do.
When you're doing this kind of work, do you actually, at this point, come upon kind of quickly if something is well written or not? And do you have to stop yourself from making a judgment about, like, if suddenly you realize, wow, this is actually pretty bad writing? That and then the idea of that then seeping in and having a judgment about that, do you have to kind of stop yourself?
It's my experience that the ease of listening and remembering the lines, memorizing, if you want to put it that way, it's easier when the words are good.
Yeah.
And it's harder when the words aren't. Because, I mean, the fact of the matter is that any communication that's given from one person to another first begins with impulse and thought. And if a writer has not thought about impulse and thought first,
Yes.
their words start to be set on a page. There's a standard thing that I think somebody taught television writers a long time ago, and it's replicated itself through many staffs of writers. And the idea is that you cannot repeat a verb, for example.
Right.
They will say one verb in one sentence and then use a different verb that means the same thing in the next sentence. But human beings don't do that.
That's right.
Most people don't. They'll say, so I was going to the store and I go to this place. They don't say, I was going to the store and I arrived at this place.
Right.
They can,
Yeah.
but they mostly don't.
Yeah.
That being said, everything is subject to judgment. But I've learned most of the people who are doing this, who are writing, are so abused by the system
Yeah.
that they are very different. Most of them, unless they become the central creator themselves, like an Aaron Sorkin, for example, they are they've likely accepted the fact they're never going to hear their words exactly the way they wrote them anyway.
Yeah.
That being said, I try to do exactly what's written. I don't want to change it. And the reason why I don't want to change it is because the words are actually the character, right? So they're not a perception of the character, they are the character.
Yes.
When one hears the beauty of Quentin Tarantino's language in almost any script, but particularly in the hands of Sam Jackson, because he's a primary collaborator, he understands the poetry of those words. I doubt he spends a lot of time thinking, I should, you know what, I'm coming in. I know Quentin's worked on this for 2-3 years. I should probably change it. Most of the time it's like, this word's great. And I've seen Aaron Sorkin fight for his words, and sometimes to good effect and sometimes not, in terms of morale. Mm-hmm. But in terms of what he meant to say, he chose those for a reason. I've done writing myself, and I worked on when I was working as a director on Lucky, Ron Livingston. There was a scene with Ron where Ron had the character said, so if something happens, when something happens to me. And he did the line the first time, and I said, you didn't use the if and when. He goes, do you really want that double hitch? I said, yes, I do. Because it's about him addressing his delusion. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to keep that in mind. It's like a sore muscle you press with your thumb and it slides away. Mm-hmm. Our mortality slides away from our view. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's intended to. Mm-hmm. I think it's intended to not be that way. But that was kind of what the script was about mortality. So it was important to have that word, that hitch in it. And Ron was great with it. He used it exactly as it was intended. Mm-hmm. Other times, writers will say, I had a great experience on Carnival. I had a line as Varlin Stroud where I went to the writer and said, this is real, no disrespect, but this is really heavy lifting getting to this line. It feels kind of obvious. And he goes, oh, I don't want you to say that. No, I don't want you to say that. That was for the readers at the network.
Ooh, yeah.
I want you to play that. I don't want you to say it. Because he was writing for an audience of them.
Yep.
And it's not the same audience.
Right.
So the conversation between writer, director, and actor, and it goes further to cinematographer and all the storytellers that we share time with, whether it's on stage or on film or on digital, which is mostly everything. All of it is intended to get at the center, the heart of what's being communicated.
Yeah.
And oftentimes a writer will need exactly what they had written, and oftentimes they'll feel like, well, let's riff it up and see what happens. And oftentimes you'll get a sense of, oh no, I was just putting that in as a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the conversation around it. Mm-hmm. This isn't judgment, it's collaboration.
Mm-hmm. You know, there are a lot of people who have a long career and they seem to always play the same kind of roles. You don't have that. You are different in almost everything. So I'm curious, when somebody now wants to cast you in something, what I really want to know is this cross-section of a choice that you have to make as opposed to what the director wants. Mm-hmm. And do you actually find that it's harder now because you're so respected and sometimes you don't have to audition, that you're kind of left alone with this choice that has to be made if you don't have a lot of time to talk to the director? And then when you get to the set, you have this thing built up, mm-hmm. but you don't know if it's what they want. And is this an actual burden for you?
The material is written down, right? And the director has worked with the writer or is the writer and has come to some agreement about that. They've cast me in the part. So unlike a voice material where my body is not required for the interpretation, it will come through my 6 foot 3.5, 250 pound body. That's a given, right? And this 6 foot 3.5 inch, 250 pound body at 62 has limitations in terms of its interpretive skills. I try to keep those at a minimum in terms of what limitations there are, but there are just simply limitations. And there are also limitations in regards to how one is perceived. And you have to continually let the sensitivity of your instrument respond to the material. But the material is written down.
Yeah.
And they've chosen you. And the assumption is they've chosen you for a reason. Now, that's not to say directing isn't needed or doesn't need to happen. I think it does. But I've watched many. I was recently watching another director work, which is rare. You know, you get a chance to watch somebody else work, and I shadowed somebody. And what I found so amazing was how confident they were that they could cut the performance they wanted out of the material that they got. There's a great documentary called Character. It was directed by a friend of mine, Drago Simonja, who's no longer alive. He died a few years ago, and he also was one of the co-writers of Lucky, the film I directed. And in Character, you can buy it on iTunes, for 99 cents. But it's Dabney Coleman talking to 6 actors about acting. And most of them come from the neighborhood playhouse where Dabney came from. And one of the people on it was Sidney Pollack. It was his last live interview before he died. And so Sidney Pollack said, there is no such thing as a film performance. Film performance is what is edited. An actor does not create a film performance, the editor does. Now, I believe that to be the case. You are acting in a technical rehearsal when you're on film. I have seen spectacular actors fight for moments inside things, and they were right to fight for them. And I've seen them go to the mattresses about it, really go all the way to the end of the line. And I've seen them do it with utter and complete respect for the director and the writer and everybody else, but to experience the interpretation, to interpret the words as they see fit. I personally don't believe that there's a clear line, delineation between what is interpretive, what is creative, and what is, in between. The creative act of a screenplay, in my opinion, is the writing of it. That's the creative act. The interpretive act begins after that. Now, a director has a lot of control over the creative act of the writer, because a director on film is the only person that works from before pre-production through post-production. That's the only person involved. A writer goes away, an actor goes away, but a director does not. So they will be interpreting the material. And as a director, I have interpreted material and hope to interpret other material in the way that I see fit. But it's the material that's sitting there on the page. And I'm a big believer in, if it's not on the page, it's not going to be on film. You have to know what the writer wants. Same thing is true of being an actor.
Yeah.
Also, being an actor is late in the process. And I've found it's much better for me not to be rude. So,
what does that mean? What do you mean?
Well, actors can come on and go, this isn't true. This isn't the character. And the writer and the director will go, that's funny, because we've been working on this script for 3 years. So it's funny that it isn't the character to you. Tell us more about that. Another possibility for the conversation is, I know you guys have been talking about this for 3 years, and I'm sure you considered this as part of your palette. I wonder why you didn't have this interpretation of the material.
Yeah, tell me why, right? Yeah.
I just wonder. I wonder if there's not something here that we're missing.
Yeah.
And then the writer and the director, if they're the same person, or the director, because you don't really talk to the writer in a theatrical, in a narrative feature, or on television, you're talking to the director. On television, you talk to the writer more, but still, they'll give you a sense of what they're going for. But then it has to come through your body.
Yeah.
On stage, the power is reversed. Everything goes through the actor.
Yeah.
The writer and director are both dependent on the interpretive artist of the acting company to bring about the full rendition of their work. They can't do without them, and they can't edit them in the same way.
Yeah.
They are required to. The actor is the primary artist of the theater, and that's just because, again, look at the workflow. They don't start with the writer. They don't start with the director, but both the director and the writer leave, and it's the acting company that interprets the material night by night, day by day. Anyway, to answer your question, that's a very long way of answering your question. I just think it's always in the conversation that you learn more, and it's always in the collaboration that you learn more. Because I can't, as a director, I can't interpret certain material that is outside my area of experience in as intuitive and as powerful a way as someone who is living that experience. I think that's just simply obvious. Even if the person is almost exactly my age, in every way, as an example, if I were to have the great good fortune of having Vincent D'Onofrio on a piece of material, he and I share a similar size, we share a similar age, we share a similar melanin in our skin, we share a wide variety of things. I believe we're both generally heterosexual. I'm not saying anything about Vincent or myself, but we're generally we're generally cis males. Yeah. So if all of those things are the same, would I really think that Vincent D'Onofrio is going to do everything that I want him to do and I would want him to do?
Right.
No. He is the interpretive artist.
Yeah.
That's a huge opportunity for a writer or director to be surprised by the work that they've written.
Yeah. And so being surprised is also part of the job too, right? And being malleable to.
Wouldn't it be part of the joy?
Right.
In Lucky, there was a moment, and it wasn't planned at all, but Harry was leaving a scene with his bloody Maria, his tequila Bloody Mary, and he got up from the bar, and he picked up his drink, and the coaster stuck on the bottom of the drink, and I prayed while he was moving through frame that he got off screen with it attached. And for the remainder of the scene, We taped that motherfucker on there because it was perfect. Nothing more need to be said about his emotional mindset than that. And that is strictly by happenstance.
Yeah.
But happenstances like that occur when everybody's on the same page.
Yes. You must have 1,000 stories about that shoot.
Probably. I learned a lot. I learned an exponential amount. And it's changed my acting.
And how? We have to talk about that.
Well, directing has changed my acting because I recognize a fundamental truth in the way that things are created, which is it is the editor's medium. It's not another department's. Within reason, you can cut almost anything out of anything.
Yeah.
And but I also, somebody said this, and I think it's absolutely true. If you see a performance that is astounding, let's use Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln, for example.
Yeah.
He was that good or better every single day. He was that good or better.
Yeah.
Every single day. If you see a performance you don't like, the editor is standing on their head spitting quarters to make it look that good. Yes. They were much worse than you expect.
Yeah.
It was much worse.
Yes.
Much.
Yes.
Because that's the best they could get.
Yeah. And they really tried.
And they really tried.
That's so true.
I think generally that's the case.
Yeah.
There are always exceptions to every rule because it's just there's a thousand ways to fuck up.
Yeah.
But that's generally true.
Would you say then that when you go back to a set as an actor after that experience, are you less precious about takes because you know they can do something with it now? Is that what you mean? You know what I mean? Like
I'm less precious. I'm freer to some degree. And also it has diminished my ownership, which I don't think necessarily is a good thing for the work, but I do think is good for the picture.
Wait, you have to explain that though.
Well, I've seen actors, as I say, fight for particular moments. One in particular, which I won't bring up, but they were right to fight for it.
Yeah.
And they were working on it, and the director said, well, let's try it both ways. Let's try it my way and your way. And the actor said, no. Because you'll use your way. Yeah. Why would I give you your way? Your way is wrong. Why would I give that?
Yeah.
They ended up with a really strong compromise, the two of them. They ended up with a really strong compromise. And it never became personal. It was always about the work. It was not mean-spirited or anything. And as soon as they came up with the collaboration, the clouds parted and we went on.
Everybody was happy.
What can hurt the experience of the actor, what I find, is I find my joy of acting is slightly diminished by my lack of ownership. Maybe that's just simply to do with ego. I'm not tied up in whether or not a picture ends up the way I want it to, because I know I have such little effect on it.
Yes.
Now, I have a great effect on the individual moments of my material, but I'm giving the editor and the director a series of choices that are true, that fit the material, and that also give them rhythmic, tonal shifts and changes that they can use to their benefit.
Yeah.
I love that part of it. The theme and variation is part of the joy of it.
Yeah.
But it also means I'm often surprised, that's how they cut that together. But I love, I don't, recently when I was going to see Sorry Baby, after it got to Sundance, Ava called me and they said, they emailed me, I think, we're cutting this scene from the piece. We felt that we're really sorry, and all these apologies. And I first of all said, it's your movie.
Yeah.
You can cut whatever you want. You can cut the whole character if you want to.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the experience on the day.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the material, they were absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
It would have diminished the power of the scene that's in there had they left the other scene in.
Yeah.
And that's almost always the case when something is cut. I appreciated the heads up.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by it's no longer precious to me in that way. And that when people compliment me about a scene or compliment me about the work, I recognize that it's a collaborative sport. Alan Arkin said when he accepted his Best Supporting Actor award for Little Miss Sunshine, acting is a team sport. And I so believe that's the case. Each character is affected symbiotically by the other. You mentioned something earlier about what a director does in terms of the spiritual nature of a set. I believe in this. The best directors I've worked with, the masters that I've gotten the opportunity to be with, have created an environment and atmosphere on a set. There's such confidence and peace on the set that actors are free to create almost anything, and they're not afraid, and they have no need to be afraid. But I'm also of the belief that it's a collaboration, and some directors don't feel it is. I don't think Alfred Hitchcock was super worried about the atmosphere on the set.
Right.
Don't think he was. Not sure.
And
don't think he
didn't
was.
like actors very much either, right?
Well, they were an imposition, but also it was interesting. He worked with the same ones a lot.
Yeah.
Not because he recognized that James Stewart understood and worked well in the system that he was creating.
Yeah.
And did not require him to change the way he worked. Another actor, Cary Grant's another.
Yeah.
They didn't require whatever it was that Hitchcock didn't want to do.
Yeah.
They didn't require that.
Yeah. Right. And but how do you square that away? Like somebody like that, or even somebody like Kubrick or any of these greats that are not necessarily creating an environment that is exactly comfortable for the actors, yet they are masters in our mind,
I just recently saw Barry Lyndon, the remastered cut. My wife and I went to see it at the Egyptian in LA. And it's, as an adult, watching the film, because I only saw it as a child, really. As an adult watching Ryan O'Neal in that movie, his performance is stupendous. And it is also absolutely and completely opaque. I have no idea what Barry Lyndon is thinking.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
And Kubrick has said, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not the intention.
Right.
It's not the intention to create something that is transparent, that you're inside the character. Kubrick, I'm trying to think of a movie that isn't this case.
Yeah, I think you're
They
right.
he doesn't really want the audience inside the head of the character. He wants the audience observing the character's behavior.
And the same thing could be said of Hitchcock in a way, I think.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I guess what you're saying is like it's the nature of the art that these people are making that actually makes that work right.
As opposed to Sidney Lumet, who the whole enchilada for him, if you watch Dog Day Afternoon, it's all of what's happening to those people.
Right.
What's happening to those people is what Lumet is interested in.
Yeah.
That's what the beauty of film and television are, film particularly, is that the medium is flexible enough to allow for movies like Straight Story or Lucky to exist, in which the main character's point of view is almost the entire film, as opposed to Barry Lyndon, which what happens with Barry Lyndon in the film, I was watching it, so I was like, wow, I just don't have any idea. And at the end, near the end of the movie, when he's in his duel with the young man, he has the Marquis, which I think that's the title. But he's just, banished him from his mother's house. And he's come back. The child is so terrified, throws up. Barry Lyndon chooses not to shoot him. Why?
Yeah.
Well, I think Kubrick has left you with that question. Why? I'm not going to answer that for you. You're going to have to answer it for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think he's a master, so he's a master for good reason. And I think that, you were talking about earlier about the idea that you can over-direct or over. I have a feeling in the circumstances like Hitchcock, for example. Do you think Hitchcock gave many notes to Henry, to James Stewart or Grace Kelly?
Probably not.
Probably did most of his directing in the costume fitting.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not insignificant.
Right.
It's just different. The costume fittings are usually the first place that I learn about what the director's thinking about the character.
Mm-hmm. Is this a significant name, Garland Wright?
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
My work with Garland is foundational to my understanding of theatrical literature, my understanding of what an aesthetic is, just what an aesthetic is, beyond what his was and beyond what mine turned out to be. His work was extraordinarily powerful. It was stunningly beautiful and so well thought out. His understanding of each piece that he directed and what he got out of it was astounding. And it was always, always, always beautiful. And acting for him was magnificent. Again, watching his body while he directed taught me more about my characters or other people's characters than I ever knew just listening. And he was a beautiful speaker, so it wasn't the fact that he lacked words.
Yeah.
He believed, as I just said, the principles of leadership at the Guthrie. The actor is the primary artist of the theater, was on the second page of every program. And that was him as an artistic director stating what he believed to be the truth. He built a company, he wanted a company, and I learned how to act in a company. And in learning how to act in a company, a couple of things happen. One is it's absolutely collaborative. You're miscast in roles because you're cast in roles that you wouldn't be otherwise, because the pool is thinner, so you're miscast, and so you have to stretch more.
Yeah.
And also that the literature at the Guthrie, because I got to work on great classical literature, mostly in very small parts, it made me fall in love with words. But Garland was a spectacular director and taught me more about the work than I think anybody else, with the exception of my wife.
And you said somewhere that David Fincher reminded you of him.
Yeah.
As a director.
Garland and David are alike in the meticulousness of their visual imagery. Obviously, Fincher's has a larger, I guess, stage to work on, a larger venue in some ways. But Garland literally moved audiences. I'll tell you a story that I just love. There's a play called Triumph of Love, and it's about a man who comes to a sorcerer to find his lost son. And the sorcerer reveals two illusions. No, it's actually the illusion. That's not Triumph of Love. It's the illusion. So he presents two illusions to the man. This is where your son is. And in the first one, the son is poor, and he gains the love of a rich young woman, and he's able to run away with her at the end of the illusion. And then the father says, but where is he now? And the magician reveals another illusion, and the illusion is that he's now a rich person and he's cheating on his wife, and his wife ends up killing him. And the father screams at the magician, why did you show me this if he's already dead? And he says, I have a third illusion if you'd like to see it. And he does. And Garland had the magician conjure a tiny little box with a red curtain out of the floor. And all of the play took place where there was a red curtain behind all the action. It's in a 3/4 thrust stage. And the magician used a little pinwheel, and the curtain rose on the model as the curtain rose
Oh,
behind us.
that's gotta be
And
freaky.
suddenly there were footlights
Oh, geez.
behind the curtain.
Yeah.
He had literally put everyone backstage.
That's crazy.
We were all backstage now.
Wow.
And I remember that happening and feeling my stomach turn. Like, how did he make me feel like I'd been literally the entire stage had turned around? And at the end of the illusion, it turned out that the young man had become an actor. And it has one of my favorite lines, which is, "My son's an actor." Anyway, the company comes out and takes a bow, and they come out 3/4 thrust. They take a bow to the center, to the left, to the right, and then they rush upstage to the footlights. And they turn back to the audience, and they all take a bow to that imaginary audience behind the theater.
Yeah.
And in so doing, they put us in the play. And no one has surprised me more delightfully than that moment in theater or on film. I've been surprised and shocked by things, by twist endings, by who I thought I was watching, who it turned out I was watching, and all those things on film.
Yeah.
But I've never felt as if I were physically 180 degrees from where I thought I was.
Yeah.
And but the meticulous nature of that, the fact that he understood every department, from props, costumes, all the way through to lights and sound and everything, and could talk to actors with such fluidity and such grace, and was absolutely meticulous about what he wanted. All of those things are like David Fincher. David Fincher can do everybody's job. And at some point, probably during his music video days, he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he knows more about the process of filmmaking than from soup to nuts, than almost anybody I've worked with, from a practical standpoint. And all of it leads to a meticulous visual landscape, and the characters that he's building, that he is asking actors to create with him in his exhaustive process, are all the same way. They all are to that level of specificity, the way Garland did it. So yeah, they were similar. They are similar artists in that way.
A lot of these people that have a tremendous visual style are not great with actors, but you say that he is great with actors.
It gave me fantastic acting notes.
And so what do you think? And also you said that at the end of these insanely long days with a lot of takes, you were the opposite of tired. You were energized, and you felt like the actors were also energized.
Well, the four of us were. We were very energized by the experience, and it took a day and a half to shoot the central scene in Zodiac. Now, if I had been on for 3.5 months,
like Gyllenhaal or something,
and I had gotten to the end of it, and every single day was 50 takes of every scene, I don't know that I would feel energized by that. But I also felt like the four of us were so in tune with each other. We'd never worked together before. The four, Elias Koteas and Anthony Edwards and Mark and I, had not worked together before. Mark Ruffalo and Marty Lodge, who I knew, who was the guy who played the manager in that scene, the guy who brought me in, I'd known from DC just by happenstance. And it was we'd never worked together. So sitting down for a day and a half and doing the amount of takes we did on each setup could have been exhausting. It just turned out it wasn't for us. But it was always new and always different, and his notes were always good.
That's why, right? It's new, different, and good notes, so it makes you play, I guess.
I think also an expectation, right? An expectation that you were going to have that many takes to do, as opposed to another filmmaker,
Right.
Where you have or on television, where you have an expectation where you'll get maybe two.
Yeah. Is there something that you thought was really important to this work when you first were starting that you realize now is not important at all?
Yes. My initial idea of what the character is what I thought was of utmost importance. And it came to my understanding over the course of time that it has almost no importance at all. That the entire process is about discovery and surprise, and not about a theory or a thesis. And that was, over the course of time, at the Guthrie, particularly when I was learning how to act, where I discovered that it was as if I was using rehearsal to prove a theorem, as opposed to discover anything. And that's been true now in the work on film. Also, this is me, and this is not true of other actors who require a kind of space, I guess it would be described, or they require a respect for the imaginary circumstances that they're creating that I no longer require.
And can you give an example of that? I mean,
Perfect, many perfect examples, but one is, let's start with on stage. We're standing on a stage right now. It has a hall, I don't know, about 50 people, maybe 100 people. It's a small stage, and I would be able to project to the back of the house with no problem at all, and I would be in charge of this space of that. I've worked on the Guthrie stage, which has 2,000 people, and it's a thrust stage. The rules are different for both of those. The need is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But how I would interpret the part would be different from one to another. If I were doing Death of a Salesman in this house or Death of a Salesman at the Guthrie, it would be a different Willie. It would be an entirely different production.
Mm-hmm.
In recorded work, I'm surrounded by 150 technicians sometimes. Certainly, even in small circumstances, there's 30 people there.
Yeah.
Many people require a kind of hermetically sealed, and I understand why they do, a hermetically sealed room when they're acting, in that they want to believe that they want to invest in the imaginary circumstances fully and completely on their own terms. I stopped excluding the crew from that imaginary circumstance. So I did a movie last year called Triumph of the Will. It was a small film, really exciting work to do. There was a crew of 30 people. It takes place in pre-war Germany, as you could probably tell by the title, and I play a bureaucrat. And in it, I was acting with wonderful acting partners. I didn't pretend as if the camera wasn't there to create my 1930s Germany. The camera was in my 1930s Germany. That frees me. That has freed my energy so completely. And also, it has given me an opportunity to invest in the collaborative relationships that the film, that the camera department, that the hair, makeup, props, they're all collaborating with me, down to the people who are doing craft service. Everybody is a storyteller. Everybody's a filmmaker, and everybody's involved. And there is no need for me to pretend as if they aren't there. They are there, and their energy makes a difference. I'll tell you what, there have been many sets in which the performances that I've either been a part of creating or have observed by being behind the camera and not being in a scene, that I've seen created, that were created by the energy of the crew. The way in which
good and bad.
Yeah, both good and bad. The way in which they invest in the storytelling is the way the scene came out. And that's one of the things that directors and cinematographers particularly, because and the first assistant director, the triumvirate of people making a film, who are the central kind of nerve center, how they behave, what experience they're investing in, changes everything about a film. Everything.
But somebody listening might be saying, come on, how do you really include that camera in 1930s Germany? What does that mean? How do you, and what about that asshole who just didn't say hi when you said hi when you walked in, the boom guy? That guy's right there.
Sure.
How do you incorporate him into it?
Well, I'm likely the asshole. First of all, let's not
If you
sugarcoat
don't
it.
find an asshole, it's you.
That's usually me. But yeah, I don't waste any energy. I can't waste any energy, excluding the given circumstances I'm in. I don't see any need to. I don't do it on stage. Why would I do it on film?
That's a good point.
This is how I describe stage work, and I haven't done a play in 18 years, so maybe I'm not wrong. But the house is the resonant chamber. The audience is the body of the instrument, and the actors and everything happening on stage are the strings being plucked that then echo into the body of the guitar, like an acoustic guitar. Well, what is recorded work other than an electric guitar?
Yeah.
I don't play guitar, but you're playing to the pickup, man.
Yeah.
Why would you not like if you're trying to get if you're name somebody, but if you're Prince and you're playing the reverb, which he did all the time, how can you ignore the amp?
Yeah.
You don't. You're playing it.
Yeah.
So why would I ignore
Yeah.
everybody to do that? I don't ignore the audience when I'm playing. I don't ignore where the light cue is. I don't ignore where my spot is. I don't ignore those things.
Yeah.
So why would I do it on film?
Yeah.
But other people require that.
Yeah.
They
And what do you-
absolutely require it.
And what do you say to them now? Do you try to help them?
Whatever floats your boat, man.
You don't try to help them remove
that's-
this burden
No,
from them?
because why would I do that? It would be like walking up to Picasso and going, it would be nice if we saw the angel that you were drawing. And Picasso's like, I've done that already. Why? That doesn't interest me in the work
Yeah.
I'm doing. Where's the tree, Picasso? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Somebody who creates the work however they need to create the work,
Yeah.
as long as the other artists are not being shortchanged by that experience,
Yeah.
and oftentimes even if they are, okay.
And so what about a situation where, because you've been on so many sets, probably almost 300 sets at this point, right? 300.
At least 300 times on set.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I mean. So at this point now, when you go to a set, like for instance, I had the fortune of playing a small little role a couple weeks ago, right? There I was, instantly uncomfortable with the positioning that I was in, that I was placed in for the camera.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, can I just do this? But everything was set. And I thought the actor's job is to figure out a way to get comfortable in this imposition, right?
Yeah.
But are you somebody who comes on a set and starts to kind of own the space? And if you were uncomfortable like I was, would you say, hey, I need this?
Yeah.
Or is that at this point, like when you're saying you take in the camera and you make it part of it, is this also part of it too, where you actually use the uncomfortability that you're in the work that you're doing?
Well, let's talk about it in terms of just the general circumstances, okay? It came to my understanding fairly early on that every film set, no matter where they were on location or on a soundstage, is like a Roman camp, okay? By that I mean, when the Roman legion would march 20 miles and dig their palisades and cut down their trees and create their camp, the centurion was always in the same location inside the camp. It was always arranged exactly the same way, exactly. And it came to my understanding that that was true of film sets. You will find a second in charge of the company of actors, and that's who you find. You find the people, and they are generally in the same locations, no matter what you do. There'll be a second who's running the schedule inside the whatever production trailer there is. The first will be on set, and it goes on and on like that. Everything is set up exactly the same, whether you have $4,000 or whether you have $400 million, although I haven't worked on many of those. But essentially, they're all the same. And the discomfort of anybody coming onto the set of just simply not knowing where things are is already uncomfortable. And on top of that, let's talk about the unfair things. There is a caste with an E system in film sets. It's with the concept of being above the line and below the line when it comes to, the unions that are described as craft unions, and then the other ones that are not craft unions, SAG-AFTRA, Writers Guild, Directors Guild, and whoever, even if they are non-union, doing those jobs. Those are freed from those kinds of constraints. The focus puller of a camera crew isn't asked whether or not he liked this take. What do you think? No. And they're not paid to have an opinion. They have one.
Yeah.
But they're not paid to have one. And I watch film crews, eliminate their idea of their taste by necessity.
Yeah.
You have one day of work, you are not going to have the leeway of somebody who comes in who has 3 days of work, or somebody who comes in and has 7 days of work, or somebody who comes in and is the star of the show.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fair.
Yeah.
And they're going to listen to the person with the larger part over the person with the smaller part in terms of their comfort level.
Yeah.
Partly it's just simple humanity, which is they know them better. But a lot of it has to do with they are a piece of capital to the making of the film. Because they said, yes, you get to make this movie. When we were making Lucky, there were 4 pieces of capital in the film. Harry Dean Stanton, obviously, David Lynch, Ed Begley Jr., and myself. Those were the 4 people that if any of them canceled, the money could pull.
Yeah.
So those four collaborative artists are the centerpiece of. If Ron Livingston had not been able to show up, we still would have been able to make the movie. If Barry Shabak Henley hadn't shown up, we wouldn't have been able. And that goes with Beth Grant. All master artists, by the way.
Yeah.
But in that circumstance, they're not capital portions of the film.
Yeah.
So it's not fair. Okay?
Yeah.
Collaboration is meted out according to your importance.
Right.
So you going, hey, I don't feel, maybe not the greatest moment for you to make a decision. You probably made the right decision.
Yeah.
Which is to say, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
The scene isn't about me.
Yeah.
I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to get the trains to run on time. I'm out to a few actors right now for 2 different projects I'm working on as a director. And in one of the circumstances, I am asking an artist, what I feel a great artist, to collaborate with me on a piece of material that only right now, and I say this as someone who's helped with the writing of it in terms of guiding the writer to it, that I'm saying to this artist, this work is not finished yet. Because the point of view that we are imagining is not the point of view, is not a lived experience that we can draw from.
Yeah.
So we're too far away from this lived experience to assume that this work is completed. As a matter of fact, I want to work with someone who's going to guide the work to the uncomfortable, messy place it needs to go. Because that's what this movie's about. That I'm not going after it as I would in another circumstance, where I have a better understanding of the lived experience. These things I don't have that understanding.
Right.
And that would be true, as I said before, if it were even somebody as physically and structurally similar to me as Vincent D'Onofrio or somebody else.
Yeah.
But even more so when you're further away from the lived experience. And good God, you should listen, in my opinion.
So you as a director are somebody, probably because you're also an actor, who actually wants actors to speak up.
Yes.
And wants to hear that.
Yes.
And
when we were working on Lucky, there was a moment where Harry was struggling with this one little couplet inside this scene where he was talking to David's character and Howard and Ron Livingston's character. And behind him was Beth Grant and Hugo Armstrong. And he was turning to Beth Grant and fighting with her because they had a contentious relationship. And he didn't understand why I was turning back. He was like, why am I talking to her? What is this about? Why is this moment about? And I said, well, Harry, this is what I think is going on. And he turned to David Lynch and said, do you understand this? Now, I've turned to actors like that tens of thousands of times to try to gain an ally that would, get more information or get it changed.
Yeah.
And David said, yes, Harry, I understand it. And he said, well, what the fuck is it then? And David turned and looked at me and then turned back to Harry and said, it's not my place to say, Harry. Now, that's what he said. But what I said, he looked at me, I go, jump on in. It's okay with me. I'm perfectly happy to hear everybody's point of view on that because I'm from the acting department.
Yeah.
But David was the actor that he wants people to be.
Yes.
Which is stay out of it.
Yes.
And I understand his point of view.
Yes.
I don't think he was wrong. And I so appreciated his respect, which certainly, since it was my first feature, I'd never seen anything I directed, was given but not earned.
Right. Were there other examples of Lynch? Because not a lot of people got to direct David Lynch as an actor.
No.
Steven Spielberg, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. He usually did it himself.
Yeah. But was he fully an actor in this? I mean,
he was fully an actor. I wanted Howard to wear a bow tie, partly because I liked the idea that he was kind of dapper in his own way. He was old school in some ways, and also there was a kind of a nod to my father in it. My father wore bow ties as a lawyer. My father was also on set as a barfly, which was fun. And David came to set, and he had the bow tie untied. And I said, do you need somebody? He goes, no, I like it. And I went, okay, let's go with that. Because I felt like it was interesting that he didn't tie his bow ties. And so he had them kind of folded over like a short cravat. And I just was like, okay, I'm going with that. It wasn't what I imagined. Yeah. But I liked it. Yeah. And I would have been also happy to go, no, I really need it done. Yeah. But I felt like, okay. Yeah. I'm not married to that. Yeah. It's not do or die. Yeah. Let's see what this does.
Yes. And also when an actor has that kind of green light about a choice, it actually fuels something, doesn't it? Like, you know what I mean?
It can.
Instead of a red light about that. You know what I mean?
It can, absolutely. And I've seen it happen with words. I've seen it happen with a lot of ways that you shrink the ground underneath an actor's feet by the answer no. Yeah. So I think that the improv answer is better, which is yes and. Yeah. Even if the end is exactly the opposite to what the yes is. I feel as an actor I'm much freer if my intuition is respected. Wouldn't that be true of anybody? Mm-hmm. So that's why I mostly want to find a way to say, yes, and this needs to be honored. Mm-hmm. And when push comes to shove, when a choice is antithetically opposed to the narrative of a piece, then you have to say, no, that can't work. Yeah. And then you have to have a reason why. Yeah. You asked me, what's the difference? When I walk on a set, I'm likely older than the director. Yeah. I'm older than the writer. Yeah. And I'm 70 movies in and over 300 episodes of television in. Yeah. So they're scared of me. Yeah. And so that also leads me to have a bigger freedom in the collaboration that I would have. Sweet. You know? So because they don't. I'm also 6'3", 250, so I'm terrifying to them, likely, and they've seen me pretend to kill a lot of people. Yes.
You are very scary in movies.
So there's a lot of,
This is interesting though, but is that sometimes a problem though?
I'm sure it likely is.
No, for you.
I'm sure it likely is, but I wouldn't necessarily know it. Because they wouldn't necessarily give me the information I need to create the character that they want me to create.
That's what I mean.
I don't know that. That's a question that I have to leave open. I don't know the answer to that. But I will say that early on, I was doing the Drew Carey Show, and I was doing my very first costume fitting as Steve Carey in a dress.
Yeah.
And I had already had my conversation with Jerry Cohen, the director. I was like, and this was before transgender was a word that was involved, but I was like, where on the spectrum is this person?
Yeah.
Are they a drag queen? Are they a cross-dresser? Is it more than that? Exactly where does he, and he goes, Jerry, wisely said, I don't know the difference. And I said, well, is it someone who has a female persona? Is it someone who wants to become a woman? Is it someone who dresses as a woman but doesn't have a female persona but likes the feeling of being in these dresses? And he goes, let's go with that one. So we do the fitting, and at this point I'm in heels, I have a wig on, and I'm wearing a dress with shoulder pads and down, and a skirt, a blouse with shoulder pads and a skirt. And who was it? It was one of the, it wasn't, I forget which of the, it was Clay Graham, who was one of the co-producers, the executive producers of the show. And I was walking back from the camera test, and I was just walking by a conversation between he and the costume designer as I was going to get undressed. And he was saying to the costume designer, I'm not sure about the shoulder pads. They make him look even bigger. Like this. And I heard him, and I turned around and said, hey, listen, you can't lose the shoulder pads because my shoulders are rounded. Mm-hmm. And that is not a feminine look. The Joan Crawford,
right.
You want to have the Joan Crawford triangle. That's the reason why she had those shoulder pads. And I was talking to him, and Clay Graham is about 5'4". And I'm at this point with the hair and the heels about 7 feet tall. And I'm talking to him, and he's leaning backwards away from me, and I realize I'm leaning forwards. He's like, oh, okay, terrified. I see his face even now. He was absolutely, yeah, okay, no, yeah, I get it, fine, no, we should do that. We should do the thing we should keep it. Turned to the costume designer, and I was walking away. I got a good distance away, and he said, hey, you're getting way too into this. Yes. And I was just like, I understood why the dresses were the way they were.
Yeah.
But that was part of the way in which people might be frightened to give me notes, and I can't stop them from being frightened.
Yes.
The good ones aren't frightened.
Right. And I guess what I mean is at this point, it's actually like this thing where it's like people leave you alone because of your stature, both literally
and on paper.
And sometimes though you don't necessarily
I never
want
want to be left alone.
Right.
That being said, again, I go back to the blueprint. You've got the written page, you've got the directors, you walk on a set that has a particular vibe, a particular tone. You understand generally that where the world that you're living in from those clues are. Yeah. So it's not like you're trying to create some other. I know the difference between a comedy script and a thriller, right? Yeah. I know the tone changes of those. Yeah. And unless I'm super bold and super inspired, I likely will make choices inside that material. I love actors who don't, and they make it work. Mm-hmm. Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean had no right to make those decisions that he made. Yeah. But it made the franchise.
Yeah.
And Benicio del Toro, fucking forget it. That guy's amazing at making decisions outside he taught me a lot about working on film because he's so present, so utterly present. So I love choices that he makes that are just ridiculous. They look ridiculous, but they're perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Are there some other people that you can name that were stellar people to be in the frame with?
There are people that you work with that you just have chemistry with that's a surprise. I will always delight in sharing a scene with Dana Delaney. I will never not delight in that. It will always be fresh and new. The 4 gentlemen in Zodiac were like that. That chemistry was eerily fantastic, and we shared a kind of a great chemistry together, still do. When I see Tony and Mark, I don't see Elias as much, but I adore working with them. I just felt like we were just all on the same page, sharing the same kinds of things. I learned, as I said, I learned a lot from Things We Lost in the Fire with Benicio, because he's so present. He never moves a moment forward. It just happens to occur. And I don't know how he does it, but it taught me a lot about having a confidence to stay present in the moment and not have to move it along and let it come to you. I've had the trial of the Chicago 7. That was an acting class because it was the most varied combination of acting styles, with the exception of The Invitation, which also taught me a lot, because there was everybody in The Invitation, from people who'd made their living in other languages, soap actors, comedians, and people from all different disciplines of acting, all sharing the same scene and doing it for a long period of time. Same thing is true of Trial of Chicago 7. To work with Jeremy Strong and Sacha Baron Cohen, and Mark Rylance, and Eddie Redmayne and Frank Langella, and everybody else. I mean, Jesus Christ, Ben Shankman. It just goes on and on and on. Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I mean, we're just renting space in his world, man. He's he's unreal. That guy's unreal. So, to be in the room with those people and to create with them from different disparate disciplines was an acting class.
And Sorkin directed that too, right? And how did he handle all these different types?
He cast well, right? He cast very, very well.
And just let them go.
He'd written the material strongly. Right. And then when he absolutely had to,
then he would say something.
He would say something. And also he had to, there were times where the circus was in town and he had to figure out a way to stop the circus. And I don't envy those moments.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, come on, fellas.
Yeah.
Let's go this direction.
Yeah. Is there something at this point, though, that you wish that you could be able to do that no one's giving you a chance to do?
I don't think there's anything that I would want to do that I haven't had a chance to do. There are certain things that scratch at me. One is I'd love to do a Pygmalion in the way that I see Henry Higgins. And I've never seen that Henry Higgins before. Henry Higgins is, in the words, it seems to me, a pig, and no one plays him as a pig.
Yeah.
No one plays him as sloppy.
Yeah.
No one plays him as a boor, which is what he seems to be. A very well-spoken boor.
Yeah. You're talking about specifically Pygmalion, not
Pygmalion.
the My Fair Lady.
Well,
version.
I mean, My Fair Lady, I don't think it works in My Fair Lady, but in Pygmalion it does. That's a niche I have, but mostly no. What I find, there are stories I want to tell, which have either to do with this physical body or not, and that's the reason why directing is so interesting to me, because there are stories that I want to tell that I can't tell in this body, or that I want to facilitate. That there's a point of view that needs to be expressed, and if I can support that, I want to, or things that need to be said. I am painfully aware of the present state of freedom of speech in the United States, and so I'm worried about my own ability to be courageous in that world and to speak truth to power. I also am not interested in contributing to division on it. There's a project that I want to do that's silly. I don't even want to talk about it here, but again, I'm not an actor in that project. But when it comes to acting, I'm going to do my first play in 18 years this fall. I'm excited about that. And I'm going to do that. And I think there may be other plays that I end up doing, I hope, at some point. Because as I say, being on stage is how I started, and really my feet feel really good there. I'm not in a circumstance where I feel like I want to, like there's some role I'm chasing or some part that I'm chasing or some dynamic that I'm chasing. Obviously, you want, like I'm working on a piece I'm directing, and the character on paper is a late 50s, early 60s man who we're offering it to a bunch of people,
Yeah.
And I keep on saying to my producers, I'm on this list somewhere, right? Like somewhere we're going to get to me, and we're going to get a yes. We're going to get a yes. And they're like, well, we want this, and we need to be able to make this. We need to be able to get this much money together, and unfortunately, and I said, I know, I'm not. I don't have enough capital. I can't. So I understand the problem.
Yeah.
And the writer and one of my producers is like, but you'll be so busy. I said, yeah. Well, I'm busy right now. I'm busy writing letters to other people to ask me to play a part I can play.
Exactly.
It's like it gets a little frustrating when you can't even get a sniff at a part you're directing.
I call that anti-baldite.
Well, it has nothing to do with baldness. Really
Everything
doesn't, because we've offered it to bald. Nothing.
No, I'm joking.
No, I get it.
As a bald.
But no, I've had, speaking of baldness, I love discussions early on when I would go, I think the character has hair, and they go, oh, you look great. And I'm like, thanks. I didn't think I didn't look good. Really, it's about the character and how the audience sees the character. It seems like I did a show where I was a district attorney, and I was like, there's not going to be another bald politician ever.
Right.
There will never be a successful bald politician ever again. Because every single person who wants to be president of the United States will start with Rogaine when they're 18 years old. Because they're not going to lose their fucking hair.
That's right.
They'll do the plug thing that Biden did. They will not go bald.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
bald people will not be elected president.
That's right. And pretty soon, I don't know why they haven't cured baldness yet. I mean, because it's
apparently they have now. Apparently they have. If anybody cares, look it up. I saw it online.
Yeah. Earlier, you were talking about how they cut a scene from Sorry Baby that you were in. But don't you think it's interesting that you're actually getting a lot of notice for that scene that you're in that movie? More notice than you generally, like we've taken you for granted as an actor, but right now you're actually kind of being lifted for what you did in that movie. And do you think that if they didn't cut that other scene, that maybe this wouldn't be happening?
I absolutely think that the scene's the quality of the relationship of the audience to the scene would have changed dramatically had she kept the other scene in.
Isn't that interesting?
But I think that it would have diminished the power of that scene. They were absolutely right to cut it.
Yeah.
They did a great job in cutting the film. That scene has gotten notice, in my opinion, because it's one of the few scenes in the piece in which the person listening to her has no agenda at all about her. Mm-hmm. No agenda at all about the character. Mm-hmm. That character is worried, that person is worried about that person. Mm-hmm. And common decency, I am a fucking sucker for it. I'm a sucker for it in real life, and I'm a sucker for it on film. That's why I think Marge Gunderson is such a powerful hero. Yeah. Because Marge Gunderson is a decent person.
Yeah.
That's what her superpower is.
Yeah.
She's decent.
Yeah.
She's law-abiding and kind.
Yeah.
And that's what solves the crime.
Yep.
It's not some intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
It's about care and decency and common sense and warmth.
Yeah.
Now, also, I think there is some truth although I said this at a talk back about the movie, there's some truth in the fact that people are wondering if I'm going to kill her when I come on film. And,
That's funny.
He goes the other way.
Yeah.
But this wonderful person I spoke to at a talk back, 18 years old, said, I've never seen you do anything.
Interesting.
And it never occurred to me that she might be in danger.
Yeah.
So, maybe
people
that's
are
just
hauling in what they know about you.
yeah, but people do haul in that stuff. They
Yes.
do make difference. They make a difference of, they make choices, difference of opinion
Yes.
about, my friend Ira, often, I said, this is coming out. And he goes, now, do you get killed in this or are you killing someone in this? Those are the two opportunities. Or are you mixing it up and doing both? So yeah, there's some truth in the fact that you bring in somebody's filmography. The reason why Ava's movie works so well is they do not shy away from the dark truth of sexual assault. They don't emphasize the act. They don't make it melodramatic. They really put the character in the aftermath of trauma. And that trauma is fully earned in the film and wisely never shown. And then their performance of the trauma and the healing from the trauma fills the audience with such compassion and relief. And that character's part of that journey is he makes her a sandwich. He's just kind.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't fix anything, doesn't change anything. He listens to her and he talks to her as a human being and doesn't try to fix or change the trauma. I think that's what Ava wrote, that's what they've enacted, and they really did a terrific job putting it on film. And as I said before, the scene is getting notice because of every aspect of the work, the cinematography, the soundtrack, the sound mix, the writing, the characterizations. Somebody asked me this question: did you come up with the line "I'm like a yam with a mouth in it"? No, that was in the film. It was on the page.
Mm-hmm.
I interpreted a lot of the things. I gave Ava a lot of different choices to interpret while I was there, and they chose really good ones, which create the scene. So it's not. I am happy to take. I'm happy to get the notice, and I take no credit. Well, take a little bit of credit.
John Carroll Lynch, you must come back on this show.
Okay.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.